Hey, welcome to Doodleable. Today we've got another quick doodle, and this one was a lot of fun. There honestly was no game I was drawing it for or from. I just felt like I wanted to draw a cowboy. I had gone through a kick of watching a bunch of Western movies not too long ago, and when I was thinking about what I might want to draw, I wanted a break from those Dungeons & Dragons characters, and thought that it could be a lot of fun to just draw an old school gunslingin cowboy. It was funny starting this too, because I knew that I needed to get that sort of smolder and the hat right, and I didn't love it right away. I made it way too small, and then I was looking at this and thinking, like, is his head too small? What am I doing here? Just very, very funny to resize and reshape, but I actually think that I got a pretty good first line in there, and moved on to the trench coat, which is another vital part of the cowboy, and then a big old belt buckle. It's really just, I was trying to incorporate as many of those classic cowboy tropes. Really wanted to make it as much a cartoon version of a classic cowboy as I possibly could. The legs, though, gave me so much trouble, because I was thinking, I don't want him to be full stride, but I want him to have that slow walk, and I knew I needed to have the one plant leg and the other barely up off the ground, but it was really tough to figure out the exact positioning for those legs to look natural and feel natural and be the right height. But again, I felt like, unlike with the previous quick doodle, the lines actually were coming out pretty good in this one. It was drawn pretty well, but this was a really funny part, because I started to draw his gun. Actually intended to draw two guns, but then I figured, you know what, I'm gonna take advantage of the benefits of digital art and draw the gun over in a spot where it was easily manipulatable. And I just sort of resized it a little, kept tweaking it a little. I kept thinking that the handle was way too tall. So I was working it for a little while, but then I found something that I thought looked good. And you'll see here that I copy it, I move it, and that one was fine. But then I screwed up a little with erasing some pieces and with sort of setting it where I wanted it to be, and then I screwed up again in trying to flip just the gun. I flipped the whole image, I think twice, before I figured out how to just get the gun. We succeeded, we got it, erased the floating gun, and kept moving forward with the drawing. It was really funny too, because the hands looked like just a big mush of lines over the top of the gun initially, and I figured, that I wasn't sure if I was going to do the purple line coloring and then do over with clean lines, but at that point I think I decided that I would definitely go for it, because I needed to clean up the hands, and figured I could clean up the hat, I could clean up part of the trench coat, his legs. And then just there, I spent way too long remembering how a tie looks for a guy that has worn his fair share of ties. You'd think that I would be able to just knock it out real quick, but yeah. So here we've moved on to the trace over of the lines, and it felt really fun to actually go over this, because there were a lot of those big flowy lines in the cloak, and there weren't as many tiny little details as in the previous quick draw. So go check that out if you quick doodle. Check it out if you haven't seen it already, because it was certainly a fun piece, and I think it came out really well. But this one was more big sweeping lines and kind of, traditionally Western rather than this fantasy style. It was fun to do a change of pace, because I have been drawing that fantasy style a lot recently. I was just talking about how there weren't many tiny lines, but I was going over those guns and those hands, and I actually was pretty happy with how they came out, but it certainly wasn't the easiest thing in the world. Like cleaning up the big belt. I had fun with that too, because it was a blast to think about, like, all right, what can I do to make this quintessentially Cowboy? So yeah, I was finishing up with the lines, but I felt like there was something missing. Like he needed more texture because a lot of them were super flat. So I did try to go in and find a couple places where I could add a couple more of those lines, just to give the fabric a couple folds. Because it really, I think in the final product, it made it so much better that I had gone back in and did those. I feel like I'm contradicting that simple statement, but I don't think those extra little lines really make it all that more complicated. It just makes it a little more detailed, because those are easy to add in. The colors too, I wanted to make sure that I got all those brown, red kind of colors. I didn't want to do anything too bright. Also wanted to give him nice tan skin to sort of show the being out in the sun all that time. And of course he's got a match hat and belt and boots, the color, and with his coat, because he's a classy cowboy. Remembering which colors I use where, because I needed to color in the tiny bits of the trench coat that were showing. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I'm saying over and over again. I had needed a kind of slow night to just doodle away, and this one, I don't know if your keen eyes have noticed, but it is sped up pretty quick, because I took a lot longer than I usually would on a quick doodle to get this guy colored, drawn entirely, but it was exactly what I had needed tonight. Just a nice, slow, fun doodle. But then I got to the lighting, which honestly is becoming my favorite part of all this, where because I've really leaned into the intense colors aspect of the shading, because I think it just makes it so much more impactful. I really love the deep, dark pop of the dark shadows, and you'll see later I went very aggressive with my lighting, but I think I love it. Tell me what you guys think in the comments, if you think I went too heavy with the shading, or if you think that the darks and the lights ended up being just enough. But there were also a lot of little curved surfaces that I wanted to make sure I got right, like the hat and like the boots. Because it's easy with the flat panels of the trench coat and his vest to be a little bit more clear with where the light is and where the shadow is. But yeah, so here we are, starting with the very bright whites. And all this time, I forgot to color the buttons. I catch that a little bit later. I think after I finish the shading with the light entirely. But yeah, I think I might be bringing this much brighter. Yeah, there we go. Caught the buttons. But I think I'm definitely gonna, lean into this even more than I did in the previous drawing. I think that I'm gonna keep this trend of very bright whites and very dark blacks, because it certainly does look fun. And then I think that now I start, with the background. I spent a little longer with the background because I wanted to make almost like a portrait mode faded out background. So I was figuring out how to make a real quick sketch of a couple buildings. I was thinking that this would be a saloon, but when I'm being this vague with the art, it's kind of hard to put enough detail in to distinguish it as anything other than like a little hut with a roof and maybe a roof and a door. But I still think that they fit the bill. I hit it with a little bit of brown to give it the western look and made it more of a sunset than just a traditional sky. And then I went over the ground a little bit to make it seem like the ground was actually in the front. But yeah, and then patched the door because I felt it looked kind of goofy. But yeah, I was actually super, super happy with this, as I think you guys can tell. So thank you all for stopping by, and I absolutely hope to see you next time. Bye.